Okay, are you ready? It's time for ridiculously early Oscar predictions. Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to the awards contender. So the 97th Oscars are very far now in the rearview mirror, and many of you have been saying, Brian, move on. Let's look forward at the 98th Oscars, and the time has come. This is extremely early. Like, so much can still happen. We haven't gotten the Cannes Film Festival lineup yet. We don't know, like, what might surprise at the Toronto Film Festival in September and things. This is just, seeing a lay of the land. What are some big ticket films coming out later this year from giant directors, right? Like, from the astonishing filmmakers, many of whom I'm talking about in this video, who've been Oscar nominated before. Like, what do they have on tap for us, in the months to come? What do I think is going to be nominated at the 98th Academy Awards? It's about time I get started, but before I do, okay, let's do this. In this video, I am discussing 10 titles, 10 films I do think are going to be major Oscar contenders, and then at the end of the video, I will give you my ridiculously early Oscar predictions in Best Picture, Best Actor, and Best Actress. Let's start with number 1, Wicked for Good. So let's talk about this one right here at the beginning. Will that be nominated next year for Best Picture, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actress? Is going to win things again in technical categories. That remains to be seen, I could see a reality where Wicked for Good, even if it's solid, like even if it's pretty good, it's still it doesn't come up to expectations enough. And let's say it only gets 3 or 4 technical nominations, like maybe one acting category, maybe Grande or Arrivo still gets in next year. But it doesn't get into Best Picture, and it's not the major awards contender we all expected it to be. That is possible. On the other hand, it could do even better than Wicked Part 1. It could get in everywhere it did the first time around. Maybe it does show up in like 2 or 3 other categories. Best Director maybe? Best Supporting Actor for Jonathan Bailey? Like, it's possible. And maybe like next year, both Arrivo and Grande win. Maybe they win. I mean, it could be a Lord of the Rings, Return of the King situation where the Academy is just waiting for the story to conclude, and then we give Wicked all the wins and all the nominations. That could happen too. I don't know. Like, I'm definitely rooting for the latter. I want Wicked for Good to do well next year. I think it helps that they shot the entirety of both movies at the same time. It's not like they made Wicked Part 1, took 2 years off, and then came back and made a sequel. Like, they shot the whole thing at once. So I feel like the second half of that story will be just as compelling as the first, will do as well next award season as the first. So yeah, I mean, outside of a shocker at this point, I think Wicked for Good is definitely going to be at the next Academy Awards. I do think it's going to be a big contender. Number 2, Bugonia. Bugonia. All right. Is this going to be like Poor Things, or is it going to be like Kinds of Kindness? That's the question about Bugonia, which is the next pairing of Emma Stone and Yorgos Lanthimos. That is set to release later this year. It might have a similar rollout like Poor Things, like maybe it'll premiere at Venice, play TIFF, Telluride, that kind of a thing. Did Poor Things play at Toronto? Like, I saw it at Telluride in a packed theater, and boy, what a thrill that was, seeing Poor Things knowing almost nothing. I was just like, wow. I don't know if Bugonia will be at that level of Poor Things, but I don't know. Even though Kinds of Kindness underperformed, that project always felt like something they did on the side, It kind of felt like this other thing. And then Poor Things was like the hot ticket, was like their big major project of that era. Bugonia, I'm getting the feeling, is going to be more like Poor Things than Kinds of Kindness. IMDb describes the story as two conspiracy-obsessed young men kidnap the high-powered CEO of a major company, convinced that she is an alien intent on destroying planet Earth. That sounds pretty great. I mean, if it was a filmmaker I didn't much care for, I'd be a little nervous, but in the hands of Lanthimos, oh yeah. And it also has Jesse Plemons, who was in Kinds of Kindness. It has Alicia Silverstone from Clueless in, I think, a pretty major supporting role. I've seen her name on a supporting actress contender list. Alicia Silverstone, that would be something. And Emma Stone, didn't she shave her head? Didn't she shave her head for this movie, Bugonia? I'm curious to know how that factors into the story and everything. I just think we have to put our faith in Lanthimos and Stone, that they're going to deliver again. And because it has a science fiction element, maybe ultimately it's not a big awards contender. That might happen too, but Poor Things was pretty out there. And that movie did extraordinarily well that award season. So if Bugonia is anywhere close to the quality of Poor Things, let's definitely keep our eye on that one. Number 3, One Battle After Another. So I'm not sure if that's the title of this movie right now. It was a working title at one point. The movie might be called something else later this year, I'm not sure. But this is definitely going to be an Oscar contender, the latest film from Paul Thomas Anderson, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Holy frickin' shit. Anderson and DiCaprio, if that's not an awards contender, I don't know what is. You look at the last few movies DiCaprio has been in, even if he didn't get the Oscar nomination for his performance, his movie got in everywhere. Killers of the Flower Moon, Don't Look Up, both of those, got into a bunch of categories. His last Best Actor Oscar nomination was for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So DiCaprio being the lead role in a project, you kind of have to expect the movie at this point to be an awards contender. And then Paul Thomas Anderson, not everything he makes gets in all over the place. Inherent Vice from 2014, I think that only got into screenplay at the Oscars. That was the only category. But his last two movies did extraordinarily well. Phantom Thread got into picture, director, lead actor for Daniel Day-Lewis. And then Licorice Pizza 2021, that got into picture, director, and original screenplay. So, this movie, whatever it ends up being called, it's going to have to suck. It's going to have to be terrible for it not to at least get into a few categories, I would say, at the Oscars. IMDb describes this project as when their evil enemy resurfaces after 16 years, a group of ex-revolutionaries reunites to rescue one of their own's daughter. So it sounds like it has elements of crime and thriller and drama. This sounds like an Oscar movie. Also in the cast, you have Benicio del Toro. You have Sean Penn, Regina Hall, Teyana Taylor, Alana Haim. Quite the cast. And then you have DiCaprio in the lead role. Yeah. I am a huge Paul Thomas Anderson fan, and because of his track record at the Oscars going back many years, I think this is going to be a player to be sure. I can't wait to see it. It's definitely one of my most anticipated movies of 2025. Number 4, After the Hunt. So this one could go either way. I don't know. We don't know yet. But this is the latest feature film from Luca Guadagnino, who had a very busy 2024, right? He had Challengers and he had Queer. In the early months of 2024, I thought Queer was going to be a bigger awards contender than it ended up being. Really, at the end there, it was only a possibility at the Oscars for Daniel Craig in Best Actor. Challengers, got into a few places, but didn't get any Oscar nominations. So After the Hunt, it's possible it just goes the way of Challengers and queer and get 0 Oscar nominations, I'm not sure. It's that cast that really intrigues me. Julia Roberts plays the lead role in this movie. And it's been a while since Julia Roberts was a big awards contender for a movie. How long has it been? What was the last film she was genuinely in the conversation for? I feel like it was August Osage County, Ben is Back 2018, the early things I saw in that movie, I was like, well, maybe that, and then no, that didn't turn into anything. So I don't know. I get the sense that After the Hunt might be Julia Roberts' awards movie comeback, especially teaming up with Guadagnino, especially with Andrew Garfield also being in the movie. 2 of my favorites, Julia Roberts and Andrew Garfield in the same film. I am intrigued, y'all. I am very intrigued by After the Hunt. I'm getting the sense it will be a fall release, it'll probably hit the fall festivals like TIFF and Venice and stuff. And then we'll find out, is this going to be a big Oscar contender? I sure hope it is. IMDb describes the project as a college professor finds herself at a personal and professional crossroads when a star pupil levels an accusation against one of her colleagues and a dark secret from her own past threatens to come to life. Oh yeah. Sign me up, baby. I Julia Roberts playing a college professor who's got dark secrets, and Andrew Garfield somehow being a part of that. Sign me the F up for this movie. Boy, from the director of Challengers, from the director of Call Me By Your Name, one of my favorite films of the last few years. Even though I had issues with queer, I think After the Hunt is going to be really great. Io Adebari is in the movie, Chloe Sevigny, Michael Stuhlbarg. Yeah. But boy, right there at the top, you have Garfield and Roberts, and, I am just about to make my video all about Julia Roberts' Oscar win in Best Actress for Erin Brockovich. That's a video that's been requested of me, going back years. I'm finally doing it to celebrate Erin Brockovich's 25th anniversary this month. What if Julia Roberts was coming for her 5th Oscar nomination in a few months' time for After the Hunt? That would be awesome. I am crossing my fingers. Number 5, Marty Supreme. So this is the next Christmas movie release starring Timothée Chalamet. And I don't know, guys. I feel like Chalamet is at a point in his career where we can never discount him. If he's working with a talented director, if he has a film that's, maybe not a straight drama or anything, but based on the images I've seen of Marty Supreme, it's a period film, he looks very, very different. And it's a Safdie brother directing, and it's got a really good ensemble cast. IMDb describes it as a comedy, so I'm well, if it's too humorous, maybe it's not an Oscar movie. It's not like Wonka was a big Oscar movie, 2023, but Timothée Chalamet just had a pretty remarkable run there with A Complete Unknown. He got in everywhere. He won the SAG Award. His film got into Best Picture. It got into Best Director. And even though Marty Supreme looks to be a very different kind of film than A Complete Unknown, I just feel like the Timothée Chalamet train is going to keep rolling, not to say that every single movie he appears in is going to be a huge Oscar contender, but it's A24, Safdie brother, Chalamet, coming out at Christmas. If it wasn't going to be an awards movie, I feel like they would bring it out in late summer or something, coming out in December. I don't know. I think that's going to be something. IMDb describes it as Marty Mauser, a young man with a dream no one respects, goes to hell and back in pursuit of greatness. Pretty vague, I would say. I don't really know what to do with that, but another good cast, Sandra Bernhard, Gwyneth Paltrow. She was in the news just recently about, the intimacy coordinator on set and her being kind of old school and be go away. So she's got some scenes in that. What was the last movie Gwyneth Paltrow was in? Oscar winner Gwyneth Paltrow. It's been a while, so like maybe this could be a comeback story for her. Maybe she'll be a contender in Best Supporting Actress. I don't know. I'm excited to see what that film's all about. I mean, Chalamet is one of those actors now. We always like need to be like keeping abreast of his career and what he's doing next. And you know, the last few months in the stills that I saw, like of the production of Marty Supreme, you know, especially it being a period film, I'm like, I think that's going to be an awards movie, and Chalamet is likely going to be back for another Best Actor Oscar nomination. Number 6, Hamnet. So here's one I didn't know much about until doing my research a few hours ago, but like, okay, let's look at the director and the 2 stars of Hamnet. Chloe Zhao, Oscar winner Chloe Zhao of Nomadland, is the director of Hamnet. And in the 2 lead roles, we have Oscar nominee Jessie Buckley and Oscar nominee Paul Mescal. So you have all 3 of those in a film that I think is coming out later this year. You know, outside of it just not delivering, not being as good as we all hope it to be, that seems like it'll be an awards contender of some kind. You know, maybe it misses picture, maybe it only gets into like an acting category, screenplay. You know, all of these films I'm talking about in this video, you know, I wouldn't expect all 10 of these movies like to get into picture. Like, I'm gonna be wrong on a few of these because it's just so far out, guys. We don't really know. You know, last year at this time, I made a video very, very certain, I would say, that Joker Folie à Deux was going to be a big Oscar contender, and that thing won some Razzies, you know? So it's a tricky place to be, you know? Like we're not sure. I'm kind of basing this on like the stars of the film and the director. If you have a good package there, you know, like you might be an awards contender, like more for the Oscars than the Razzies. I feel like Hamnet, you know, it might do very well. IMDb says it's the story of Agnes, the wife of William Shakespeare, as she struggles to come to terms with the loss of her only son, Hamnet, a human and heart-stopping story as the backdrop to the creation of Shakespeare's most famous play, Hamlet. So speaking of Gwyneth Paltrow, do we have another Shakespeare in Love on our hands, right? It's got a little bit Shakespeare in Love in there. I don't know like how comedic or dramatic in tone this is going to be. But like, you know, having it be like on a real person, like the wife of William Shakespeare, Jessie Buckley, Paul Mescal. It also stars Emily Watson and Joe Alwyn, you know, 2 good supporting character actors. And like, yeah, I think Hamnet is going to be one of the big contenders of the fall, I think, as long as it's at least very, very good. You know, I do think that movie is going to get into the Oscars. Number 7, Deliver Me From Nowhere. So this could be 2025's version of A Complete Unknown. Here is our big music biopic film, like at least one of them. You know, there might be more than one probably, but this one's about Bruce Springsteen. It's directed by Scott Cooper, who is great, and Jeremy Allen White is playing Bruce Springsteen. Jeremy Allen White from The Bear, you know, who's done so well on that show. He's won Emmys, and, you know, he is someone that I've been keeping my eye on, like, if he can find the right role in a movie, you know, he could be an Oscar contender for sure. I mean, I don't want to be too cynical about it. I don't want to think, you know, producers and maybe Jeremy Allen White himself, we're looking at, you know, these music biopics, we're looking at A Complete Unknown, you know, probably still in the distance when they started shooting this Bruce Springsteen biopic, thinking, you know, what is my ticket to the Oscars? How about we do a film about Springsteen and I play the lead role? I mean, it's just such an easy path, you know, to awards glory. If you play a real life person, you know, a real life musician, and the movie's good, if not great, oftentimes you can get the Oscar nomination for Best Actor, you know? And because Jeremy Allen White has had so much success on The Bear, I feel like as long as this movie like has a good rollout and people like it, you know, it could get into Best Picture. It could get into Best Actor. Like, that would make sense to me. Just like in the early months of 2024, having seen nothing except for maybe a couple stills, I knew A Complete Unknown was going to be an awards contender. It just, especially with it coming out in December, I was just like, oh yeah, that's going to happen. And it did. So Deliver Me From Nowhere, I think could go the same path. Maybe it just crashes and burns. Maybe it becomes nothing. But especially with White in the lead role, I would assume that movie is going to do well next award season. Number 8, The Ballad of a Small Player. Okay, so I know almost nothing about this one, but look who directed it and look who the stars are. The director is Edward Berger, who made Conclave, who made All Quiet on the Western Front from 2022. So, if he's directing a movie, we have to take it seriously as an Oscar movie. That could happen. And then who are the leads? We have Colin Farrell and Tilda Swinton. Oscar winner Swinton, Oscar nominee now Farrell. So pairing those two with Berger excites me. I'm curious to see what that's all about. And boy, Berger's film Conclave was just one of the big contenders this past award season. He's gonna have another movie by the end of 2025. That's kind of cool. IMDb says, when his past and his debts start to catch up with him, a high-stakes gambler laying low encounters a kindred spirit who might just hold the key to his salvation. IMDb calls it a psychological drama, psychological thriller. So yeah, it's a Netflix movie from what I can see. So maybe it's nothing. Maybe it'll just quietly drop on Netflix in, October, November or something. And it's good, not great, is not a big awards contender. I just think at this point, anything Edward Berger directs, we have to take seriously. And with those two in the lead roles, even if it's not a giant awards movie, it's definitely going to be one of the most anticipated films later this year. Number 9, The Smashing Machine. So here's another big awards contender movie coming out in 2025, also directed by a Safdie brother. This one's by Benny Safdie. And there's been one, very kind of already famous still released of The Rock, of Dwayne Johnson, who has a very clear physical transformation in this upcoming movie. It's a sports film. I wonder if that might hurt it. But it's A24, like Marty Supreme, So A24 has both Safdie brothers movies. Will both brothers get into Best Director? Will it be the battle of the Safdie brothers in director next year? That would be awesome. In some ways, I feel like The Smashing Machine could be more of the awards contender than Marty Supreme because you have that physical transformation of Dwayne Johnson and you have recent Oscar nominee Emily Blunt in the cast too. IMDb calls it the story of mixed martial arts and UFC champion Mark Kerr. Carr? Is it like Deborah Carr? I don't know. But I've already seen Dwayne Johnson's name on some Best Actor Oscar contender lists. I've also seen Emily Blunt on some lists, I think in supporting actress, not lead actress. So it's the sports element of the movie, I always go back to The Iron Claw. The Iron Claw 2023, a sports film, a drama. I thought that was going to be an awards contender, and I don't know if it just came out too late or what happened there. But The Iron Claw just never became an awards movie. It didn't get in anywhere. But I do think the physical transformation of Johnson, that's what's going to keep this movie, The Smashing Machine, at the top of many lists. Going into the fall, as long as it has a good rollout, plays the festivals, don't hide this movie like The Iron Claw was kind of hidden until the end of December. If The Smashing Machine comes on strong there in the fall festivals, in September, and everybody really, really loves that Johnson performance, yeah, maybe it'll just be a play in Best Actor. That could happen. Or it could get into supporting actress. It could be a player in picture and screenplay and director. Again, what if we had both Safdie brothers nominated in director next year? I would love that. So yeah, I think The Smashing Machine is going to be something later this year. And number 10, Frankenstein. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. I cannot wait. You know, I mean, he's one of my favorite directors. He's talked about doing a Frankenstein adaptation for many years. I feel like I've seen one or two interviews with him, like where he said, like, oh, I would love to do Frankenstein. He's finally done it. He has an incredible cast led by Oscar Isaac. You have Jacob Elordi in this film. And it's, you know, it's the horror element of it where I'm like, well, maybe it's not an Oscar contender. I thought about for number 10 here, just going with the third Avatar movie. Maybe the third Avatar just gets into picture and does really well and things, but I don't know. The second Avatar movie, it didn't do as well at the Oscars as the first one. So I'm like, is the third one going to do as well or better than the second? Probably not. So I don't know. I'm taking kind of a swing with Del Toro's Frankenstein. Maybe it's just like a crowd pleaser and it's not really an Oscar contender. And if it is, maybe it's more like Nosferatu than The Substance. You know, like it doesn't really factor in at all at the Oscars in the top 8 categories. But Del Toro, you know, he won Best Director, Best Picture for The Shape of Water. You know, he's been at the Oscars before. And he's got a great cast for Frankenstein. I am very excited. I don't know when we first get to see it, if it will be at the fall festivals, if it will be later than that. But I am a huge fan of Frankenstein, the story, the 1931 film, some other adaptations. You know, some of the adaptations have been hit and miss. But it's a great story. And for Del Toro to tackle that one, to take that on and have this amazing cast. And yeah, I'm excited. I do hope the new Frankenstein film is going to be an awards contender. And finally, that takes me to my ridiculously early Oscar predictions. Best Picture, Best Actor, and Best Actress. We'll see, you know, in many, many months from now, how accurate I was here. Maybe we'll have some laughs about it, you know, early next year. But here we go. Ready? My 10 Oscar nominees for Best Picture are After the Hunt, The Ballad of a Small Player, Bugonia, Deliver Me from Nowhere, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, The Smashing Machine, and Wicked for Good. In Best Actor, I have Timothée Chalamet, Marty Supreme, Leonardo DiCaprio, One Battle After Another, Dwayne Johnson, The Smashing Machine, Paul Mescal, Hamnet, and Jeremy Allen White, Deliver Me from Nowhere. And in Best Actress, I have Cynthia Erivo, Wicked for Good, Lucy Liu, Rosemead, Julia Roberts, After the Hunt, June Squibb, Eleanor the Great, and Emma Stone, Bugonia. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and let me know in the comments below what are your ridiculously early predictions for the 98th Academy Awards, and I'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.